We are living culturally in a time where tensions are high, where there's a lot of opposing thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and things about the way that the world should or needs to operate. There are a lot of internal stress factors that have been sustained by our society for quite some time now, and all of those things lead to relational discord, to a sense of frustration or oftentimes animosity within a culture and a society. And while there's not necessarily an easy fix for all of that, we are going to talk about today one way that I have seen time and time again in my own life and work experience to break down barriers and to facilitate conversation among people who are coming from different life experiences, different perspectives, different beliefs, and a way to create safety in the midst of all of that. I am talking about nothing less than the power of a really good meal. My name is Kathryn Hubert. I am the owner and chef of a restaurant in Greensboro, North Carolina called Chez Jeunesse. We are French-inspired, dedicated to changing the way that our world both views and employs people with disabilities. 50% of my staff is disabled, 50% of my staff is non-disabled. We've been open for almost 7 years, and if there is anything that I am totally fascinated by and completely obsessed with, it is food and the power that food has to bring people together, to break down barriers, and to create communication, conversation, and connection. I've always been fascinated and obsessed with food, so it's honestly not a huge surprise that one, I have a restaurant, and two, that I love any reason and excuse to get on the internet and to talk about it. But today we are going to be covering 3 specific things. Number 1, the common language of food. Number 2, barriers that are broken down around the table. And number 3, when we are fed, our hearts and our minds are opened. And when our hearts and our minds are open, that's where real change can start to happen. All right, so number 1, the common language of food. Food obviously changes quite a bit based on race, ethnicity, culture, where you're located geographically, the foods that are available there or not, the recipes that have been passed down from generation to generation or not. There's a lot that is very specific and a lot of identity that can be found and connected to within food and food culture. That being said, across the board, across the globe, there is this mutual understanding among all people that 1, food is just really important. It's obviously part of our survival and something that we need to sustain our bodies and to keep going. But number 2, that there is something really to the emotional relatability and connectivity of food. It's something that, 1, is a sensory experience, and so we actually do find a lot of enjoyment or pleasure in food. A lot of our happy hormones and chemicals are released when we're enjoying a good meal. But then secondly, there is that sense of I'm participating in the life, in the culture, in the history of the people around me or the place that I'm in currently. There's a lot of ties to history, to the stories and the experiences of people that have come before us or people that we're getting to share our lives with now. And so kind of regardless of the fact that there are a lot of different foods available and kinds of meals and cuisines that you might experience, there is still this common language of every human needs to eat. At the end of the day, we are all people who need to eat a meal, and who would most of us like to take enjoyment in that meal that we are consuming as well. So that brings us to point number 2, which is that food and enjoying a meal collectively and in community with other people can actually bring down a lot of barriers. A lot of times it's easy in society, especially when we don't have the same perspectives or the same experiences as someone else, to start to forget what relates us to or ties us to another person. We can easily dehumanize one another and start to pit ourselves against other people, or to start to think that we are superior to someone else, or our value is greater than someone else, or to feel insecure about our identity or our value as a person based on how we perceive someone else. And so anytime I think that we can remind ourselves we have a lot more in common because we are all people than we actually have differences, it's easy to forget that. And so food, I think, is a really powerful reminder. It's something that happens daily, that we need daily. It's a really powerful reminder that we are all people. And when we sit at a table, there is naturally through our body language, just an equalization that we're all seated in the same place together. We're all in the same room. We're all at the same table. We're all at equal eye level. There's not someone in that moment who is greater in posture or stature than another person. And there's that circular nature to the table. Like, we're being brought together, we're eye to eye, we're sharing in a tangible, intimate experience, but one that we all need and want. And just that alone tends to kind of pull down some of the stress, some of the tension, some of the walls that we can tend to put up between us and other people. Which brings us to our third and final point. When we're fed, our hearts and our minds are open. This is not just a feel-good mantra that I'm slapping up here that sounds great online, but doesn't actually hold any merit. It actually holds a lot of scientific merit. There are several different reasons why, when we are fed, when we are full, our hearts and our brains actually become more open to the people and to thoughts and ideas around us. And that is that, one, our bodies move from being in fight or flight mode into that rest and digest state when we have eaten. We as people are always kind of scanning the horizons and looking for safety, and eating and filling our bellies indicates to our bodies and to our brains that we are safe, that we are okay. So our defenses start to come down. We start to actually calm down and chill out as people when we have eaten and we've been fed. There's also some chemical changes that happen in our bodies. Obviously, when that happens too, that can stabilize our blood sugar levels. It can help our vagus nerve to reset, which is a big part of our nervous system and also ties into that fight or flight or that rest and digest state. And there's social factors as well. So again, part of being a person and being wired for connection, for safety, is recognizing that when we're sitting down and we're eating a meal with other people, we are being cared for in that really real way that we are seeking, that we are needing. And because of all of that, our minds become more open, our hearts become more open, and we have this opportunity to have conversations around the table that we just don't get to have in other spaces in our life. There's an opportunity to really lean into the time, the space that is created and that's carved out around the table. And because our defenses are down, we are less likely to feel angsty, to feel upset, to feel annoyed. We start to be more receptive to the other people that are around us and even to ourselves in that process, right? Safety doesn't just have to mean with other people, it can also mean with ourselves. When we are feeling safe, our defenses come down. We're not trying to protect ourselves so much, and that allows us to actually engage with more transparency and vulnerability, which then really encourages and facilitates other people to do the same. So it can have this real ripple effect. And I see that being in a restaurant space where we're surrounded by people who are around tables and eating every day. And you just see this difference when people start to eat and they're actually enjoying their food. The conversation oftentimes just automatically flows outside of that. Some of our best times as a team are when we sit down at the end of the day after we've all been working together side by side the entire day. But when we sit down around the table and we start to eat, the stories that we tell, the laughter that we share, the connection that happens, it's just different. There are these moments and pockets where we really get to enjoy each other, connect with each other, and we get to carry those then into other experiences, work days, etc. So we can't solve all of the world's problems by sitting around a table, but we can really make a difference in our own cities and our own communities by doing that with the people that are in our spheres. That doesn't mean that they're all people who think like us, who look like us, who act like us, but they're people that we're close to geographically, that we can then become close to relationally because we're seeking out the time to get to know them and to do that in ways that set us up for the most success in terms of the kinds of conversation and connection that we're sharing with each other. Next time you're feeling overwhelmed about the state of the world, so in like 2 minutes when you jump off this video and you start doom scrolling through your phone, pause for just a minute And think about somebody that you could share a meal with, even if that's just one person, one time a week, which has been my goal this year, is to eat a meal with at least one other person one time a week. It doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just giving myself that consistency and that time to enjoy time around the table with another person and to be intentional about it has shifted a lot of how lonely I feel. It's shifted a lot about the relationships that I've been able to build, the conversations that I've been able to have, and just the connection that I've been able to feel as well. So in a time where we are more connected and disconnected than we've ever been, there is a remedy for that. Make some food or order some takeout and sit around a table with someone that you know well or that you don't and see what happens as a result.